Hello and welcome to Algebra 2 tutorial. In this video we're taking a look at the last method of solving a quadratic equation, the quadratic formula. It is the most powerful, but it can also sometimes be the longest. The reason why it's the most powerful is there's a problem with our other methods so far of solving quadratic equations. So let's take a look at that problem. If I just simply make up a quadratic equation here, let's call that a 2x squared plus 5x plus 10, say. Our other methods completely break down. If you do 2 times 10, you get 20, and none of its factors will add up to 5. If we try to complete the square, well, we don't want this 2 here, so we have to divide everything by 2. This doesn't divide by 2. And cutting it in half, again, is going to be even worse. And so our other methods become very, very difficult. And so we want another method. And this is the quadratic formula. Hopefully you've seen it before. If not, here it is. All right. And so, of course, we've got A, B, and C, and you just plug all those numbers in. It looks big and ugly, but it simplifies down really quick, and that will give you your solution for x. As you can see, it has plus or minus in it, which that is how you will get your 2 answers. And that is really how you solve all the really hard quadratic equations, using this quadratic formula. It's something you want to have memorized for your math class. I know it looks long, but it's not hard. YouTube it and you'll find lots of great songs that will help you memorize it. So that's what was wrong with the other ones. We're now going to use that quadratic formula to solve some equations. So we'll start with a nice easy one here and use that as a good first example, and we'll try some harder ones a little bit later. So in the front we have a 1, so that is our A value. 9 is our B value, and 18 is our C value. So we go straight to our answer here. Just about, I'm going to go a little bit lower actually for my technique here. So leave a little bit of space. X equals negative B, so negative 9 plus or minus the square root of B squared, so 9 squared, minus 4a, which is 1, c, which is 18, divided by 2 times a, so 2 times 1. All right, so we plugged in everything. You can see I used parentheses every time I put a number in. That really helps keeps your negatives and positives in order, so I highly recommend that. And then I'm going to do the square root first. You don't want to keep writing this problem over and over again, so I'm just going to write the simplification of the square root above it. So, and each time it's going to get a little bit smaller. 9 squared is 81. 4 times 18 is 4 times 2 is 36. 36 and 36 is 72. All right. And then we're going to simplify it one more time. 81 minus 72 is 9, it looks like. And the square root of 9 is 3. Almost looks like a little pyramid there, doesn't it? So this whole red square root is going to become a 3. Now that's where I want to start writing a new step. So I didn't mess with the 9 in front, so it's negative 9 plus or minus the whole square root simplified down to a 3, so I'm going to put that 3 there, divided by, on the bottom we've got 2. All right, so here's where we're going to break this up into 2 different answers, because I have to add or subtract on the top. So on the top I'm going to do negative 9 plus 3, which gives me negative 6, divided by 2 on the bottom still. And then I'm going to subtract negative 9 minus 3. That will be my second answer. So that will be negative 12 divided by 2. And so our two answers become -3 and -6. So that worked out pretty nicely. And because the answers worked out pretty nicely, that means we could have factored this at the beginning. But again, it's a good example of how the quadratic formula works with nice, easy numbers. Now we're going to do some where the numbers aren't so nice and easy, but the process will remain the same. So remember, our y is going to be 0. We're finding the zeros, and we just do the whole process again. I'm going to start kind of low here one more time. So negative b. Well, my b value is 3 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a, here's where the parentheses really help, times c divided by 2a. There we go. All right, now let's work on that big square root. What happens there? So 3 squared is 9. Now here's where the negatives get really tricky sometimes. We have a -4 and a -2. So a negative times a negative is positive. Times another positive, that will be a positive. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 and 8 is 64. Still square rooting that. And so now I need the square root of 9 and 64 is 73. Here's where our answer starts to become a little bit messy. The square root of 73 is not a nice number. And so we're just going to convert that into a decimal here. I need the square root of 73. It doesn't give me the decimal, does it? 8.54. Let's minimize that now. So 8.54. So when I rewrite this, x is equal to, we didn't change the 3 in the front, plus or minus 8.54 divided by, and on the bottom we have -4, it looks like. And so now we're ready to turn this into two answers. We're going to do -3 plus 8.54 divided by 4, and -3 minus 8.54 divided by 4. And that will give us our two answers. So let's do that. I'm going to do them both in one step here to sort of shorten things up. So I have a -3, I'll do the plus first, plus 8.54 divided by -4. So my first answer is -1.38. All right, and the next one, I'm going to do -3 minus 8.54, hit enter, and then divide that by -4, and it's 2.88. So there are the two answers. So it's a long process, but it gets you to your answers when there wasn't really another way to do that problem for us. All right, one more for something weird that can happen. This is going to give us an imaginary solution. So again, we have our A, our B, and our C. So we've got x is equal to -b, which is a -2. Again, that's where those parentheses come in handy to keep those negatives in check. B squared minus 4 times a times c divided by 2a. Alright, let's do that square root. Negative 2 squared is a positive 4. Negative 2 times negative 2. Let's see, I've got a negative times a positive, so that will still be a minus. And 4 times 1 times 5 is 20. And so here we have a bit of an issue. 4 minus 20 is actually negative 16. You can't square root a negative 16. That's not a real number. It's an imaginary number. So that's where we use the letter I. So the square root of 16 is 4, but because it had a negative, it's 4i. And so we can still do imaginary solutions if we put in the I. Let's rewrite our answer here. So a negative 2 is a positive 2 plus or minus 4i divided by, on the bottom we've got 2. Now we can't really do the plus or minus on the top because you can't add 2 plus 4i. They're not like terms. And so you actually just sort of leave it like that. Although on this one we can do one more step. Because they all have a 2 in them, we can divide everything by this 2 on the bottom. So here, 2 divided by 2 is 1, plus or minus, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. And so that is a complex number, but it is still the solution to this quadratic equation. It is still 2 solutions even, because you have a plus or minus in there still. But that's how you can use the quadratic formula to deal with imaginary solutions when that square root is a negative number. Alright, that's the quadratic formula. Memorize it, know how to use it. It's the most powerful one, and if you get quick at that arithmetic, it can actually become quite fast as well. Alright, here's a nice simple practice problem for you. Try the quadratic formula on that, and as long as you can get the numbers in the right place, I think you'll do just fine. Good luck!